Okay, we are working on pattern 9050, the Simplicity Pants. And I am on step number 13. We're going to do the back pocket. So I have my back piece number 3 and I have my back pocket number 4. So our first step is to make the back pocket. So for right now, I'm going to put my back piece to the side and I'm going to make the back pocket. So I have my iron and I need my scissors just to get started. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to do just this little clip. So when we prepped our pieces, I had you do this, but I'm just going to, in case you didn't, I'm just going to remind you that you take your little scissors and you are going to clip that, and then you can remove your pattern piece. So what you're doing when you clip that is you are indicating where that fold line is. So I am using white muslin, so it's hard to tell what is the right side and the wrong side. So what I'm going to do is, since I'm not making a real garment, I'm just making a sample for you guys, I'm going to write right side by putting an R. Can't really see that. So I'm going to put it with a red pen on there. So an R. So this indicates that this is the right side, or the side that faces the street side when you're wearing it, so that you can follow along. So if this is the outside of the fabric. So then I'm going to take and fold my fabric on that fold line where I clipped, and I'm going to press that down. And then I'm going to take a seam gauge. So a seam gauge is a little metal ruler that we use in sewing. And I'm going to fold back that edge of the fabric 3/8 of an inch. So 3/8 would be 3 ticks on that seam gauge. So 3/8, I usually just eyeball it, but just to be safe, because your pattern calls for 3/8, why not use your seam gauge? You bought one, right? And so I'm going to measure that out, and I'm going to press it. Press it real good. Yeah, that's right. So then I press that, and I'm going to pin it in place, because now I'm going to go to my sewing machine, and I am going to stitch with a 5/8 seam allowance. I'm going to stitch down the side, cross this corner piece, cross the bottom, across the other corner, and up the side again. And the only place I need to back stitch is up here at the top corner and at this top corner. And I'm not sewing it to anything. The only place where I have a double layer of fabric is going to be here up at the top edge where I've made that fold, and the other top edge here. So I'm going to do that. So my machine is on, and I'm using not quarter inch, I'm using a 5/8 seam allowance. So I need to pull my machine closer to me, and I'm going to do a back stitch up here at the top, and I'm going down the side. And the reason why I am sewing that 5/8 seam allowance, because that is my seam allowance I'm going to use for this whole project. And once I do this, I'll show it to the camera, and you can see what this looks like. Across the bottom. And you get all these tails that you're going to need to clip. And you want to make sure that you are sewing straight, because what you're sewing is just a guideline for yourself for when you iron or press over your seam allowance on this pocket. Okay, so now I'm up at the top, so I'm at the top. I'm going to back stitch again, and I lift my presser foot and I'm done. So clip all my threads because I don't like all those threads. They're terrible. Get rid of them. So this is what it looks like. I've gone all the way around. This is my right side. I've marked it. And now I'm gonna need my iron again. So I'm gonna, before I flip the top over, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip that top to the wrong side. I'm gonna just cut at a little angle the corners at a corner, so it gets rid of that extra fabric I don't need. So then I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna put my thumbs in there. I'm gonna flip that to the back side, and so that's now the right side. And I'm gonna use my scissors to poke that out, and then I'm gonna use my iron to press. I'm gonna press it over where I use the stitching line as a guide, so I don't need to use my seam gauge again to know where that 5/8 inch seam allowance is. Press the sides down, press the bottom up, then I'm going to press those corners, and here it is, and it's going to be done in 1 second. Almost there, almost there. Nice pocket. And I need to stitch right here across the top to keep that, because if I'm making a nice pocket, I don't want this pocket flap to not be secured. So I'm going to stitch across that top. So I'm going to pin that. I'm going to pin that, and pin, stitch across. Back stitch at the ends, and I want to be nice and neat, clip my threads off, and now I need to get my back pant leg. So I get my back pant leg, and I already pre-marked up at the top where my pocket's gonna go. I can put my, so I'm gonna take one pant leg, just need one, and I'm going to lay it out flat. So here is, we are now, if you look at so we finished step number 14. We are now on the next page. We are on step, if you look at it, step number 16. We're going to pin that pocket to where those two dots are. We're going to line that up straight. I don't want any threads showing, so I'm going to cut those threads. And then I'm going to pin that pocket on there. And I'm going to stitch that, and when I stitch it, I'm going to back stitch at the very corner, and back stitch at the other corner. And because your pocket gets a lot of stress on it when you're using a pocket, so you want to reinforce it at each corner. You also want to, as you stitch, you want to make sure that you're staying on the very edge. So you're doing an edge stitch. An edge stitch just means that you're staying like 1/8 of an inch from the edge of that pocket as you sew the perimeter. You don't want to go too far in because it just looks homemade. So you want to stay right on the edge. You can use your foot as a guide, but I just like, I don't find that, I think that's not close enough. So I just, there's a little marker on the foot of my machine, and I like to stay right on that edge. And then when you get down to the corner, you're going to rotate your wheel towards you, put your needle down, lift your presser foot, put your presser foot down, go to the next corner, needle down, presser foot up, turn, stitch to the next corner, needle down, presser foot up, rotate, presser foot down, needle down, presser foot up, next corner, and until you get to the top corner. Then you want to back stitch, reinforce that pocket. Last step, I'm going to show that to you're going to clip your threads. Now your directions are asking you, there you go, right there on that edge. Your instructions have you do a second stitch following your first stitch 1/4 inch away. So I'm going to do that, and we are done with that pocket. So I'm going to set my stitch, and I'm going to use the width of my foot as a guide. I'm just going to follow that. I'm going to follow that first stitching line, keeping it parallel and using the edge of my foot to keep it even all the way around. It also is it's gonna be decorative, but it's also gonna make that a stronger pocket. And then once I finish this pocket, I'm gonna go and do the other side, the other pocket. All right, so here we are. We are done. Pocket. I'll clip those threads, do the other side, and we'll do the front pocket.